My favorite part was when I finished, because I felt like I accomplished so much. What was difficult was trying not to stop working because my hand hurt so much. I solved it by not complaining or thinking about it, but sometimes I had to suck it up and be a man. I learned that Canada has over 2 million lakes and how to draw a maple leaf. I really liked this project. Sometimes I wish it took me longer to finish. I put so much effort and I'm glad it turned out nice, and I think that people liked it.
If you've ever done research projects with your class and come to regret it, you're not alone. A lot of teachers have found that sometimes it feels like the amount of marking that you have to do after a research project hardly makes it worthwhile as far as your time. Also, sometimes students don't make the best use of their time. They might get bored or start fooling around, not using their time wisely in class. So those are some of the drawbacks to doing research projects that might prevent teachers from wanting to do them. But I've got some tips and tricks that I have found to make it more smooth and efficient. And what I've noticed from doing this latest research project is that it really was worth my students' time. They got a lot out of it, and it wasn't painful for me. I can't expect them all to do the same amount of work or finish in the same time frame. I started with getting some materials that I wanted them to research, and so I had a theme of Canada. And I went to our school library and I pulled out a bunch of books about explorers. I wanted them to do this project individually, not in pairs, so I needed more books than what I just had on different explorers. I think I had about 10 or 12. So then I broadened my topic to the history of Canada. So I found some books about different topics in Canadian history. I looked at the books and I put them into 3 categories: easy reading, middle reading, and more advanced. I have found in the past that when students do research projects, they need to have a book that is below their reading level. If it's above their reading level or even just at their reading level, it will be too hard for them to put it in their own words because the way the author wrote it sounds better than what they think they can do.
The thing I mostly thought was hard was doing my point form. This is why I thought point form was hard, because I could not copy the words.
The hardest thing for me to do was writing point form notes. I did not know if I should add this or is this important.
When I read information, I found it kind of hard. I kept on thinking, will the class enjoy the information or will they not like it? I felt a bit stressed. When I wrote my point form notes, I felt fine, but sometimes I felt like I should copy from the book, but I did not. I wrote the facts in my own words.
But if the book is quite easy to read for them, then they can easily say, oh, I could say this a different way, and they can put it in their own words that way. I have my reading levels of my class, and I just called different groups up, and I put the books in different areas of the class, and I said, if I call your number, you can come up and choose a book from this pile. So I had more books than there were students, so if I had a group of 8 students, there might be 20 books for them to choose from. And they were books that were at about their reading level. Then I called up a different group in a different area, and then the final group in a different area again. Then I just took all the books that hadn't been chosen and I left them around the room. If anyone wanted to change their topic, they could swap it out for another book. And I explained that they don't have to do the project on the entire book. They might just choose one section or one chapter. That was a first step in trying to make the material accessible for the students. As far as the project goes, how it worked was I explained to them that first we're doing point form notes, and we had actually spent quite a lot of time on this year. The first way that I teach point form notes is we all have the same information that we're highlighting, and I tell them what to highlight. Then after we do that quite a lot with different examples of papers that we're highlighting, information, then I will ask the students to give suggestions of what should be highlighted, and we'll do it together like that. And then finally, over a series of months, I will have them do their own highlighting in groups or on their own. So they'll get all the same material, and they will be told you can only highlight, say, 20 words on this whole page, or maximum 10 words. What are the most important parts? And that really helps them pick out what are the main ideas and the key facts from information. So highlighting is easier than reading information and thinking in your head abstractly what are the most important parts and writing that down. And then after the students have highlighted what they think is important, then they put up their hands and they share with the class what words they highlighted, and I say what words I highlighted, and we look at where is their agreement. Then they're ready to do point form notes.
What we were supposed to do was read a book, write point form notes about it, and then turn the point form notes into paragraphs using your words and not copying the book.
I got the students excited about doing a poster project by walking them down the hallway and showing them some grade 7 examples of poster projects. And so I showed them how the layout was done, how you have a title at the top, how it's usually rectangles and different balanced layout with information in words and pictures that go with it, captions, things like that. So they were seeing a nice example of something to start with. Then we went down to the art room and every student got to pick a color of poster that they wanted to have.
What I enjoyed about my project was getting to design my poster and having a big project to do. Designing my poster exactly what I want it to be like.
My topic was about British Columbia. I enjoy drawing a picture and picking the color of my poster. The most interesting parts for me were watching my classmate present and walking around the class and looking at other people's drawings.
So even before we started the project, I let them choose their color of poster because I just wanted to generate some excitement about it. Then I took the poster paper away and didn't let them touch it for a while because they had a lot of work to do in the meantime. So after they had chosen their book and their topic and their poster color, then they were to do their point form notes. And this is by far the hardest part of the project, deciding what's important, what's worth writing down. So one of the things that I learned in hindsight, and I had known this, but I had forgotten it, was to tell the students that they shouldn't just start at the beginning of the book and work chronologically. They should skim through and get to the interesting part and start there. Because what happened was a lot of students started running out of steam and they had written way too much about the early years of an explorer. Like, it doesn't matter who they were married to or how many children they had, really. We just want to know, what did they discover in Canada, what parts of Canada are named after them, and how their exploring went. We don't really need to know about their childhood or who their family was.
I love George Vancouver's backstory.
The whole point of the project was basically to practice taking point form notes and writing those notes into sentences and paragraphs in your own words. So even if they're writing something that's a little bit off topic, it still is practicing that skill. The students all finished at different rates. So the first projects, when a student sort of said, I've done my point form notes, can I do a good copy? So then I would give them a piece of paper, and I had to explain quite a lot about how to put it into sentences to make your good copy. Then they would write out their good copy, and 2 students finished quite a bit ahead of most of the others. One of them wanted to have all of her good copy on one page, and the other one wanted to have each little paragraph separated and glued separately on the poster. So that worked out well, because then after those 2 had finished displaying their poster, I put them up on the bulletin board, and then when students were finished writing their good copy, I would walk them over to those posters and I would say, do you want to have all of your good copy in one block on the poster, or do you want me to cut it with the paper cutter so you can put it into separate sections? Having an example of something that's done always makes things go a lot smoother. Some students ended up not having very much information, and so I thought it might be a good idea to trim their poster. I realized later that I probably should have left all the posters the same size, because at the grade 4 level, they don't seem to notice as much how much information is on the poster. They more look at how big the poster is. So even though some of these posters are short and trimmed, the amount of information is the same as if it's all cut up and spread out. So for the students, pride of ownership or whatever, probably it would have been better to have everyone have the same size poster. After they had made their displays, I asked for volunteers to share their poster with the class. And so if they're up on the back wall, then we would just have students bring their chairs and listen to a short presentation. And if they were on the front bulletin boards, then we would turn around and face that way to hear those presentations. At first, I had probably 4 or 5 students only that volunteered to share. But then after those ones went, I started to get more and more volunteers. And I think by the end, I had probably 20 out of 28 that volunteered to present their poster to the class.
I got to read my SS project to my classmates. I was a little nervous, but I was proud of myself.
The things that I found the most challenging were turning my notes into sentences and presenting to the class. I found these hard because I don't like speaking in front of a lot of people, and I don't like trying to make sentences out of almost nothing. I got through these challenges by pretending that there was no one there and by trying not to think about it and just write.
When I was doing the presentation, I felt excited. It was fun doing my presentation.
So after the presentations were done, I said to the students, we're going to do a reflection about this. And they kind of groaned and they said, what? We've done all this work. You want us to do more work? But it wasn't really too much work to do the reflections. I just wrote on the board what we did. We read books, we took notes in our own words, we turned those notes into sentences with capitals and periods, and turned those sentences into paragraphs in our own words. Then we made a title, drew some pictures to illustrate the topics, and glued them onto a poster board. I made a list of what the project entailed. Those were the skills that we learned. And then I said, what did you like or enjoy about doing your project? What was the challenging or the hardest parts for you? How did you overcome those challenges? And what did you learn? What skills did you learn, or what information did you learn, either from doing your project or from hearing your classmates present about their project? I was really glad that I did a reflection. One, it gives me more information when I'm assessing the projects, how much of the topic that they studied they actually absorbed and understood. You can tell by their reflections if they really understood what they were writing about or not, because they didn't have their poster in front of them when they did the reflection. So if they're summarizing what they learned and there's a lot of information, then I can tell that they got a lot out of it. The other reason why I like doing the reflections is because they are going to dictate these reflections onto their digital portfolio. It will be kind of like a self-evaluation for their own project. Probably half my class loved the project, about half of them liked it, and one or two didn't really like it at all. I always edit their reflections before they dictate them into their digital portfolios. It just makes their writing more clear if it's been edited. In the end, I would say that it's definitely worth doing some kind of research project with grade 4 students. Just keep in mind the most important thing is the material that they take to do their research from has to be at their reading level. It has to be accessible to them. You have to be flexible with how much information you're expecting out of them. How I did the assessment was I looked at their point form notes, kind of how much detail they had, and if they were indeed able to write down important facts, not just random things. Were they able to do their point form notes in point form, not complete sentences and not copying from the book? For the good copy, were they able to make sentences in their own words? Did it make sense? The layout of the project, how did it look? What's kind of their effort with doing pictures and stuff? And it was basically down to how much information did you include? I didn't mark so much their artwork as far as their mark, but you can kind of tell how much effort they put into their display, and that counted as well as part of it. Plus their presentation to the class and then their reflection that they wrote about it. All of that kind of just came in together as something that I could do a holistic mark on their digital portfolio, and it will basically just say proficient or proficient/developing or proficient/extending with maybe what to work on next time or a compliment for them. But really the best feedback they did themselves by doing that self-reflection. So on their portfolio, the parents will see a picture of their project and the student's reflection about the project.
I learned how to put a masterpiece on a poster. I'm really proud of myself for doing the project.
The things I like about my project was admiring my work, having fun with the drawing, and reading my paragraphs. The hard things were writing my point form notes, reading and checking my work over, and presenting my work. How I overcame my challenges was staying calm, focusing on my work, and getting help when I needed it, instead of doing it by myself because I might not know how to do it. I really enjoyed the project. I am impressed with myself.
I showed hard work on my project and I'm super proud of it.